2016 server, and we're going to install network access protection. So if you launch Server Manager and go to Add Rules and Services, next, we're installing on this server, next, and we're looking for Network Policy and Access Services. So tick that and it'll ask you to add some extra features. Click Add Features and click Next. Next, next, and install. For the purpose of the video, I've obviously sped this up quite a little bit, but that's it installed successfully. Now click Close. Now, as we're going to be authenticating against Active Directory user groups and Active Directory computers, what we need to do is launch AD using computers and set up some groups that we're going to use for our different levels of authentication. New group, I'm going to call this one VPN User Access. And then I'm going to create another group called VPN Restricted Access. Now I know it says restricted, but I was toying with what to call these groups. This group will have full access to all the restricted servers. So we have normal users and we have users who have access to restricted servers. Just to make things a little bit simpler, we'll set up a couple of users so we can test it when we've finished. And because I can never remember, I'll have a user access. That's just going to go in the standard VPN user access group. And we'll have another user to test our restricted access. So set up a password, and then we're going to have to place those users in the correct groups, the groups that we created earlier. So user access will become a member of VPN user access when it catches up. And restricted access will be a member of VPN restricted access, as the name implies. Okay, that's our users and groups all set up. Now, to actually set up network access protection, go to Administrator Tools and launch the Network Policy Server Management Console. I'll just drag this about a little bit so it's easier to see. Our first job is to right click at the top level and register the server in Active Directory. There we go, that's it done. Click OK. And we need to add the ASA as a Radius client. So if you right click Radius Client and select New, give the ASA a friendly name. I always use Cisco-ASA. You'll need to remember this because you're going to use it again in a minute. And then specify the IP address on the Cisco ASA that's actually facing the NAP server. And set up a shared secret. This is just the password that you'll set up on the firewall as well, so that they can authenticate to each other. There it is. That's our asset all set up. To actually do the authentication by group, we need a network policy. They're called built-in. You can see there, deny ones. If you just right-click network policies and select new, we'll set one up for normal user access. So MP for network policy, VPN user access. So we'll keep everything named reasonably the same to make it easier to troubleshoot if you've got any problems. Next. Now we need to add in some conditions. The first one I'll add in is, remember this is a normal user account, and they need to be a member of VPN user access. So that's the first condition that must be met for this policy to be enforced. Now I'm going to add in another condition. I just scroll down to, where are we? There we are, client friendly name, and I'm going to add in Cisco-ASA, which was the friendly name we set up on our Radius client. So once those two conditions are met, then this policy will apply. Click next. Access will be granted. Click next. Well, under EAP types, you need to add in unencrypted authentication PAP SPAP. You need to tick that option. It won't be ticked by default, and then you'll get a warning. So do you want to read the help topic? No, I don't want to read the help topic. Accept all the defaults on constraints and click next. Now here we need to add in the property that will be passed back to our firewall and put the client in the correct group policy. Select all and class and add. And what it is radius attribute number 25, and we will specify it as OU equals and then the name of the group policy that we're going to set up on the ASA. Now these are all the commands that I'm going to be using to set up on the ASA, so just so I don't make any silly typing mistakes, I'll just copy and paste the name of the user access group policy straight out of the firewall. There it is there. GP for group policy, user access servers. That's the name of the group policy that I want allocating to these users that are a member of this group when they authenticate. Okay, click OK. Now rather confusingly you've got to click close here. It doesn't look like it's done anything, but trust me, there is our class. Click next. And that's just a quick review page. Click finish. Now I'm going to move my network policy so that it's at the top of the list. And then I am going to create another network policy for my VPN restricted access. Again, where I can, trying to give everything named sensibly so it's pretty contiguous across all the groups. Now remember, this time we want to be a member of VPN restricted access. And once again, add in the client friendly name of the Cisco ASA. And remember, that's Cisco-ASA. So if the user are a member of that group and the radius call comes in from the Cisco ASA, then this policy will apply. Access granted again. Next. Once again we need to tick unencrypted authentication. No, we don't want to read that. Next. And then once again we need to add in our class, and this time it will be set to OU equals and then the group policy of the restricted access servers group policy. Okay, close. Next, finish, and I'm going to move that up. So the two that I want to use are sat up at the top. Smashing, that's network access protection and radius all set up for us. The thing to do now is to jump onto the ASA. Now you'll notice I work at command line. If I were to do this at ASDM, this video would be about an hour and a half long. It is much simpler to set this up. At command line I will put all the commands on the web link below the video. You can go to the website and download them and just change them. So the first thing we need to do is point the ASA back at the radius or NAP. I'm setting up a server group, then I'm creating a server within that group, telling the ASA that it's on my inside interface and what the IP address of my 2016 NAP server is, which is .19. And then the shared key that I used was 666.999. So I'm just going to paste that into the firewall. Go to configure terminal mode first, and that's AAA setup. This is why I like working at command line, because things are much simpler. Okay, the next thing to do is we're going to set up a pool, which is essentially like a DHCP scope, if you will, of IP addresses that are going to get leased to our AnyConnect clients. And you can see I've used 192.168.249.1 to 254, 24-bit mask. So those are the addresses that will get leased to our remote clients. Now we have to set up a few object groups to make things a bit easier for NAT commands and ACLs and things. You'll see a bit further along. The first one I'm going to set up is an object group that refers to the pool that we've just created, 192.168.249. You'll see it matches the DHCP pool, and that's why I've called it Object AnyConnect-SN for subnet. That's that created. The next object group that we want to set up will be for the servers that our normal Common Garden users can access. Here I'm just granting access to 192.168.110.10, and you can see that I've put a little description in there to say that that actually maps to the VPN user access AD group. Okay, that's for our normal user access servers, and an object group for our restricted access servers. Again, there's only one in the list, and that's .19, which, if you've been watching closely, you'll know is actually the NAP server. We're just setting this up for testing, so obviously you could have a lot more servers in each of these object groups. Now we need to enable Web VPN and enable AnyConnect. To do that, you need to go into the Web VPN submenu, and you can see I've enabled it on the outside interface. I've disabled tunnel group list there, which is normally enabled, so you can pick which tunnel group you're in, because these dynamic groups don't have a matching tunnel group, which you will see in a minute. So I'm just going to take a copy of that. And I'm also specifying where my AnyConnect packages are on the firewall. One's for Windows and one's for Mac. If you've got Linux clients, you'll need to put Linux one in as well. Now these AnyConnect images that you can see that I'm specifying are actually preloaded into the firewall. I've TFTP'd them in, but to show you them, if I just go show flash, you'll see them sat in flash memory there. You can put them in with the ASDM if you want. If you can't be bothered to go to all the hassle of setting up a TFTP server, but you need to have them copied in beforehand. Obviously yours may have a slightly different name, they may be slightly newer or slightly older, so you'll need to change the syntax accordingly when you set this up. Okay, now we're going to set up some access control lists, and these are the ones that are going to be used by the group policies that we're going to set up in a minute. Confusingly, they're a little bit the opposite way around. So you're allowing access from the servers back to the AnyConnect subnet. This is because they are applied by split tunneling. If you don't know what split tunneling is, go over the website, type it in this. Oh, there's a problem with that. I've either done something stupid or I've come. Oh, okay. Object AnyConnect -subnet does not exist. Fair enough. This is live demos for you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I've obviously done something incorrectly, so let's just scroll back up and check the name. Oh, okay. You can see there that it's actually AnyConnect-SN, not subnet. I've obviously shortened it, so I'll just change them to match the group object group that we created above, and hopefully if I paste that in it should take it. Like I was saying, these are applied as split tunnel ACLs to each group policy when it's applied. If you don't know anything about split tunneling, go to the website and click on the search button. I've done loads of articles on split and force tunneling. We need to set up another access list now for the restricted groups. You'll notice there are two ACEs, access control entries, in there. One of them is the same, that allows us access to the Commodore Garden servers, and the other one allows us access to the restricted server, which is .19 if you remember. Next, we need to make sure that the traffic from our remote clients to any IP addresses behind the firewall is not NATed. So what this is doing is saying any interface behind the ASA or a DMZ, etc., do not NAT translate it if it's going to the AnyConnect subnet. And I'm reusing that object that I used above to keep things nice and neat. This is what in all Firewood code used to be NAT0. Now remember earlier I said we're not using individual tunnel groups for each group policy, which we would normally do. So what you need to do is put some settings in on the default Web VPN group. Now you will not see these in the config if you do a show run, because the default Web VPN group settings are hidden from the running config. But what I'm doing here is essentially saying use the radius server that we set up earlier and use the address pool that we set up. That was our very first command, and I've put local on the end of there, so if the radius server fails, it will fail back to local authentication. So I've got a username and password set up on the firewall that I could use to get in if radius failed. The only thing remaining to do now is set up the two group policies that are going to be applied to each of our Active Directory user group. The first one is GP user access servers, and if you have a look along, you can see it sets their DNS value, timeouts, tunneling protocols. More importantly, it's a split tunnel specified, and then it locks the split tunnel ACL there to the ACL that we created earlier. So in this instance, only the user access servers will be able to speak back to the AnyConnect clients, which is exactly what it's doing. What it's doing in actual fact is only tunneling traffic that's going between the Any client and that server. It's allowing those servers to speak back. That's how it works. So that's one for our general user access group policy, and last but not least is the one for our restricted access servers. So if you were to get this group policy, you'll be allowed to speak to both .10, which is the normal user access, and .19, which is in the restricted access object group, because it applies this ACL. First one, second one. So as you can see, there's a little bit of work up front, but once you've got the AD group set up to actually put users in and out of these groups, it is pretty straightforward, and you've probably got people who can administer Windows groups more than you have people who can administer Cisco firewalls, I would imagine. As usual, because I've made some changes, I'm going to save them with the right mem, or copy, run, start in new money. That is my Cisco asset setup. So all that remains to do is to jump on an external client. I've got a Windows 10 client so outside the firewall here, and I'm going to connect in. I've got a certificate 1 because I'm using a self-signed cert. So user access is in the VPN user access group. So when that authenticates, I should be able to ping 192.168.110.10, which is the general user access server, and I can. But I should not be able to ping .19, which is the restricted access. So hopefully this should time out, and it has. So that proves that that works. It's not a proper test until we log off and log on as our restricted group. We should have access to everything. Well, to IP addresses in this case, but there's no reason why you can't set it to everything if you wanted to. And that is restricted.access is the username. Type the password in for that. And when it authenticates, I should now be able to ping both .10 and, more importantly, .19, which you can remember the other user couldn't ping. There we go. That proves everything's working. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to come and visit us at www.pnetlive.com.